All right, next on the agenda will be my introduction of our guest speaker, Captain Troy Fendrick. He's an Arizona native. He graduated from Arizona State University with a Bachelor of Science degree in Justice Studies. He enlisted in the Navy in 1993 as a radioman and received his commission in 1997. He holds a master's degree from the University of San Diego in global leadership and the Naval War College in National Security and Strategic Studies. At sea, he served on board the USS Juno, the USS Essex. He did a tour on the Antietam. His department tours were the USS Shiloh, the Chancellorsville, and he was the executive officer on board the USS Chosen and the commanding officer of USS Coronado and USS Jackson. Ashore, his assignments include Afloat Training Group Pacific. He served on the staff of Commander U.S. Naval Forces Europe, Commander U.S. Naval Forces Africa, 6th Fleet. He also served on the staff of Commander U.S. Naval Forces Central Command, Commander U.S. 5th Fleet, and on the staff of Commander Naval Surface Force U.S. Pacific Fleet. He is currently the commanding officer of the, is it USS or USNS? It's USS.
It's well, and I was going to clarify that. That's my bad. It's right now it's USNS,
Okay.
and then 8 May it'll commission USS.
Okay,
Apologize for that confusion.
that's okay. You know, it's still something that floats. So, and he's the commanding officer of the Blue Crew. Captain, over to you.
Okay, well, thank you, and good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with everyone today, not only about Miguel Keith, the individual, but Miguel Keith, the ship as well. So it's truly an honor. So if I can go to the next slide, please, I'd talk a little bit about, make sure it goes here. And everybody can hear me, right? Am I coming through? Okay. Okay, so talk a little bit about who Miguel Keith was and his legacy. And I think this is particularly important, especially when I address the crew, because I need to establish it within the crew and the ship into their DNA about, you know, who he was. So every opportunity I get to remind them about him, the Marine, I take advantage of that. So Miguel Keith was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor for heroism in Vietnam in May of 1970. And what's interesting, if you look at the date there, 8 May 1970, and we're going to be commissioning USS on 8 May 2021. So it's exactly 51 years to the date when he was awarded when he died in combat. So that we find that's pretty significant. He was born in San Antonio, Texas in June of 1951, and his family then later moved to Omaha, Nebraska. And he left North High School in Nebraska in December of '68 and enlisted in the Marines, the Marine Corps Reserve in January of 1969. And then he was discharged from the reserves in April of 1969, and the very next day enlisted in the regular Marine Corps, and that was on 1 May of 1969. Then he completed the Marine Corps recruit depot there in San Diego in 2 May, and then transferred to the Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, where he went through some combat training with Company B, 1st Battalion, 2nd Infantry. And then upon completion of the combat training, he received orders to Vietnam and arrived in theater 6 November of 1969. He was a rifleman with the 1st Combined Action Group, 3rd Marine Amphibious Force. And then while participating in combat in 8 May 1970, he was mortally wounded in action in Quang Ngai Province. And then his medals include, obviously, the Medal of Honor, Purple Heart, Combat Action Ribbon, the National Defense Service Medal, the Vietnam Service Medal, and then a Bronze Star, and then the Republic of Vietnam Campaign Medal. His mother is still alive. She lives in Texas, and she's the ship sponsor. And we're hoping that she can make it out for the commissioning, but that's kind of up in the air right now, just because of the COVID. But she did make it to the when it went commissioned USNS, and we're hoping that she can make it back out on 8 May for when it commissions USS. If I go to the next slide, please.
All right, where you at? Uh-oh, went wrong. There you go.
Okay, so this is a ship's crest, and it's got a lot of significance here, as you can see. So up at the top there, you see the dragon with the 3 pillars, which represent both Vietnam and the fact that Miguel Keith was a member of the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force. And then just below that, you see the fireballs there, and that represents the gunfire and grenades that Lance Corporal Keith endured while in combat. And then just below that, the 7.62 rounds, which represent his role. He was an M60 gunner. And then obviously the 13 stars for the Medal of Honor. And then the 2 palms, which represent Southeast Asia and specifically Vietnam. And then underneath that, you see Semper and Pugna. That's Latin for always in the fight, which we believe, exemplifies Miguel Keith and what he did and what he endured during that initial attack by overwhelming forces in Vietnam. Next slide, please. Now we'll move on to the kind of the ship characteristics. As you can see, it's from the pictures and as well as the overall length. It's 785 feet long. An aircraft carrier is 1,092 feet, so it's just a couple hundred feet shy of an aircraft carrier. It's wider than the aircraft carrier. Aircraft carrier's beam is 134 feet. And then the LHDs, which Jay, you might have sailed on, I'm not sure, LHAs, we're just shy of those. Those are about 840 feet. So we're pretty close, and then we're wider than those. They're only 104 feet. Again, we're 164. And then when we get on, we'll see the pictures, but the mission deck, we got 65,000 square feet of real estate in there, and that's where we'll store boats, small boats, containers for berthing compartments, dry freeze goods, and whatnot. And we can also store the sleds that'll enable us to do airborne mine countermeasure operations. Got several cranes on board. And then the aviation facilities, we can land up to 4 Ospreys or 4 CH-53 simultaneously. And in the hangar bay, we can bring in 2 if they're folded of the 53s, 1 if it's spread, and then we can also fit 1 Osprey in there at a time. We don't have a lot of weapons, mainly crew serve weapons for self-defense, 50 cals. So if we ever get into an environment to where we need any other kind of support, they're going to have to bring in a crew des to provide a little more firepower or backup if we need it. Medical facilities, we can take on a fleet surgical team if we have to, but mainly what we'll do is we'll bring on these containers that are essentially, portable medical facilities that we load on there, we strap them down, and we use those as necessary. Accommodations for military and embarked. For military, we have right now, we only have 5 officers on board. When we deploy and we embark, we go up to, as you can see, up to 19. We do currently only have 20 chiefs on board, but again, embark staff, we can go up to 44. And then MSC, they have a total of 44, and they're primarily responsible for the engineering and navigation of the ship. We've got 4 diesel generators. They provide not only electrical power, but they'll provide power to our engines as well. We have 2 of those, the variable speed reversible Prostrom motors. We have an ASI thruster, bow thruster, allows us to hover. So we don't have to always be going in circles. We can just pretty much stay in one place. Not a lot of speed. It can only do about 17 knots, but it could go a long ways, and they expect it to be in service for the next 40 years. And during that time, it's going to be forward deployed to 7th Fleet for the majority of that time. Next slide. So Miguel Keith is a pretty flexible platform. It can, be used across a broad range of missions throughout the various phases of military operations. It acts as a mobile sea base. Essentially, the ship will be a critical part of the access infrastructure that supports the deployment of forces and supplies to provide pre-positioned equipment and sustainment in theater, with an ability to flex as necessary to distribute those resources where needed, when needed. The ship is also optimized to support a variety of maritime-based missions. Includes a 4-spot flight deck. As you can see at the lower picture there, those are 4 CH-53s. The mission deck and hangar, they're designed around 4 core capabilities. That's aviation, berthing, equipment staging, and then command and control. It includes forward house, which you can see there in the bottom picture, and that houses the mill crew, the embarked mill crew, and then, or the permanently embarked mill crew. And then if we embark, whether it be Marine Forces, Special Forces, or Helo Det, they would also reside in the forward house. And then in the aft house, let me go back to the forward house real quick. As well as the housing or the berthing for the mill crew and the embarked forces, it also has the C5I, the computers, command control computers, communications, and intel resources in that area, as well as the ammunition magazines for all the ordnance that'll be required. And then, as I mentioned, the berthing. The hangar bay is also there in the forward house. And then in the aft house, as you can see in the lower picture there, that's where the civilian mariners reside, and they're responsible for the navigation, the refueling operations, and the engineering of the ship, the propulsion, if you will, of the ship. And I'd like to just stop there for real quick, see if there's any questions about the description before going to the next slide, or anything that I've covered so far. Okay.
Hey, Captain, this is Tony Johnson. I got a question. I saw on your slide that you have a CPO and officers. Do you have any 6 below as far as
We do. We do. In fact, that's the majority of the sailors. We've got a pretty senior crew. We have, I would say, a majority of my crew is E6, and then E5 is probably the next largest group. And then I don't have that much in the E1 to E4, maybe total of, I don't know, maybe 20 folks that are E1 to E4. And then the rest are E5 and above in the enlisted ranks. We have
I've got a question.
Sure, yes, sir.
Question about the discrepancy between the NJROTC and JROTC. What is the makeup? Are you looking to take and recruit from JROTC?
And have them on the ship permanently, or I guess I'm sorry, I don't really understand the like junior.
Correct. We're looking at taking and the young folks that are looking to go in the military. They're looking for opportunities, and those opportunities come when folks want to take and employ the areas that they're looking for. So what is the makeup of your crew?
So I have, I mean, as far as rates?
As far as folks that have come from the JROTC, as well as folks that didn't.
Okay. I've got, well, the officers that I have, I've got one SWO, 1110. I've got an aviator pilot. I've got a supply officer. And then I got an XO who's also a SWO, and then myself, I'm a SWO. And then on the enlisted side, I've got a myriad of, I've got aviation types. I've got bosun mates, gunners mates, operations specialists, ETs, IT, information technicians, electronic technicians. That's on the enlisted side. I'm not sure if that answers your question or not.
Kind of. Our question is that, or my question is that, you know, these folks that are taking the next generation that's coming up in the military side, they're really focused on the electronic piece of it, whether they be aviation or maritime. Is there any kind of correlation between the folks that are picked for the position to man your asset? Is anything weighted that gives those folks that went through JROTC a hands up?
Well, I know not for my ship specific, but definitely for the Navy writ large, it would. Obviously, when they go through those groups and they graduate or whatever it is that they do to complete them, and then they go into the military, that is definitely taken into consideration when they choose their rate, what they want to do prior to even raising their hand. But yeah, it does benefit them.
What about male to female?
On my ship,
Yes.
I'm probably less than 3 to 1. I've probably got 1 female for every 3 males right now.
That's good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hey, Captain, I got a question for you. Your flight deck, can you handle the 35?
No, it can't. It can't handle the heat from those. It's no fixed wing. It's only rotary. Obviously the Osprey, which is a little bit of both, but it's only rotary. Yeah.
Sir, I have a quick question for you. You talked about the mix of military and commercial standards. You've been on a bunch of pretty high-end survivable surface combatants. What do you think the survivability of this platform is if it, it's really on the edge of battle?
Right. So yeah, that's a great point. So it was built to the American Bureau of Shipbuilding Standards, which is Coast Guard standards, right? So there's not a lot of mil spec standards into it. There's all the mil spec standards is in the forward house, essentially, in the comms gear, the intel gear, the flight gear, the aviation facilities and stuff. But everything else is ABS. And so if we did get put into a situation where we were in an area that was contentious, we would have to be provided a support, whether it be a cruiser or destroyer, to essentially put us under their umbrella. That's the only way we could survive. We couldn't sustain ourselves independently. It just wouldn't. From an engineering perspective, these ships don't even undergo shock trials. And the ship was when it was originally designed, it was supposed to it wasn't even supposed to have a permanently embarked military crew on board, and it wasn't going to be designated a USS. That came later once the combatant commanders got kind of a handle on it, what it is and how they wanted to employ them. That's when they determined that, hey, we're going to commission them USS and we're going to put a permanently embedded military crew on board. And with that said, they're going to expect us to operate as a USS coming out of the gates, right? But there's going to be some caveats there on what it is we can do and where we can go in, by ourselves. Otherwise, they're going to have to make sure we have a cruiser or destroyer to provide us a little bit of defense.
Thank you.
Skipper, what's it like for your crew working with the civilian mariners?
It's great. I mean, they're professional mariners, and that's what they do. you know, throughout their careers, they're either navigators or they're engineers, and they're professionals. They know exactly what they're doing. It is interesting. We actually do very well. I'm not gonna say it's not without challenges. They have procedures that they need to follow. They have a chain of command that they need to report up that is separate than ours. But I have really enjoyed working with the master. He's a true professional, and the chief mate and the chief engineer. But there are some challenges that we're going through in order how we're going, especially when we go USS, on what are the requirements going to be from an operational perspective with them. There's certain things that they can't do that we can, and vice versa. Some of the equipment, it's all identified and codified in instructions on they shall do this, we shall do this, and Civmar shall not do this, and Mill Crew shall do, so it's all been codified, and it's going to be, and it's been tested. So the Lewis B. Puller is currently, it's the same class of ship, it's currently operating in the 5th Fleet AOR. And the Hershey Woody Williams is operating in the 6th Fleet AOR. So it's being done. And we're going to certainly leverage the lessons that they've learned and try to incorporate them into how we do business, and we prepare to deploy as well.
Captain, are they merchant marines?
I'm sorry?
Are they merchant marines?
They are merchant marines. Yes, sir. Licensed. Yep. Licensed by the Coast Guard. Okay. Next slide. Okay, so if I had to kind of put into one sentence what is Miguel Keith? What does she do? I guess you could say she's essentially a floating command and control ship for aviation and special missions. And that would kind of summarize it. And the combatant commanders can use the ship to support airborne mine countermeasure operations, which includes hosting a squadron of, like I mentioned before, the CH-53, the Sea Stallions, with all their mine clearing equipment, sleds, etc., or explosive ordnance demolition teams with all their equipment. And like we kind of already alluded to this, the ship was originally designed to operate in relatively benign environments where there's low threat to the ship. However, when you start to add in the mine countermeasure aspect of it, and the requirements that entail to accomplish those missions, kind of change the dynamic a little bit. And now we may be required to move closer into a threat area. And that's when we'll need to ensure that we're lined with the proper support from other naval combatants and/or joint forces. Kind of just provide that layered defense, if you will, and allow us to survive for an extended period of time. Special ops forces could also embark and use ESB to support their missions. However, we cannot do. We don't have the real estate, if you will, or the communications pipes to support them simultaneously. So it's kind of a one or the other type of thing. And we could integrate with strike groups, carrier strike groups, or amphibious ready groups, although I don't anticipate that being likely, just for the fact that we couldn't keep up because we're kind of speed limited. But if we had to hunker down into an area, we could certainly provide support, maybe for humanitarian disaster relief missions and things like that. Next slide. I think that's it. Yeah. So I hope that that kind of just gave you kind of a quick snapshot of who Miguel Keith was, and what the ship named after him does. And now my time is yours to answer whatever additional questions you may have.
Jay, can you take the slides down, please? Captain, I have one. When are, after the commissioning and everything, when is the crew due to deploy?
So we're looking at September right now. An exact date hasn't been determined, but we'll commission 8 May, obviously, and then we'll start our workups, get certified in all the areas that we need to, aviation, deck, et cetera. Do some boat operations, and then we've got a voyage repair period where we're going to get some maintenance done prior to sailing. But right now we're looking in September.
And my follow-on question will be is how long does, the blue crew stay out before the gold crew takes over?
So we're on a 5-month rotation. So we'll go, the blue crew, my crew, will sail the ship initially. And then we'll look at doing a swap February timeframe, give or take. The gold crew will fly out, and then we'll fly back to San Diego. We'll do all the personnel transfers that need. We'll bring in the new folks, and then we'll start to get trained up again because a lot of our certifications will have expired. So we'll have to get recertified in some areas, and then we'll make ourselves ready to redeploy again.
Okay. Has anyone else got any questions? Since it's a
Yeah.
small group, you can speak up.
I got a quick question. Hey, Captain, David Deary here with the USAA. So it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that even though you're being reclassified as USS, everything will remain operationally like a USNS. The master will drive the ship, run the ship. The civilians will do everything on the bridge. Or does the MILDET step up and take control of some of those?
That's exactly. So so right now, see, there's always only one captain on the ship, right? And right now, USNS, that's essentially him. So when we commission 8 May, it's going to be him turning the ship over to me.
Okay.
And then I'll be overall responsible for the ship. And then he will essentially hold a position, probably according to the Joint Operation Manual, equivalent to my XO, right? So it'll be me, it'll be my XO. My XO will be responsible for all the administrative stuff for the military crew. The ship's master will be responsible for all the administrative stuff of the CivMar crew. In addition, he's responsible to me for the navigation, the safe navigation, the engineering, the refueling, and stuff like that. And I'll be responsible for the military operations that they will help us, that they will support us in. That
Very
kind of
cool.
answer your question? It entitles us enables us to execute Title 10, missions.
That's what, right. That's what I figured. That was the
Right.
case. I mean,
Yep.
my first ship way back when I was a raidman
Yep.
was a USNS. So
Okay,
that's-
yeah, it's a little bit different. So the 6th Fleet ship, the flagship, the name escapes. I just dropped sync. 6th Fleet flagship. No, that's
Blue
7th
Ridge.
Fleet. Yeah, that's the
Blue Ridge.
7th Fleet. But similar, it's the Woodby
White-
Island. No,
maybe not, yeah. I was thinking White Plains, but I knew that
yeah,
wasn't.
it operates under a similar construct. It's a USS, but it's got a CivMar crew on there that's responsible for the navigation and engineering, as is the Polar and the Woody Williams that are operating right now in both 6th and 5th Fleet AORs.
And then curious, is the crew, is it a stateroom style or is it open?
So the officers have staterooms. The chief petty officers have staterooms. There could be two to a stateroom. And then we have several berthing compartments, although they're not the traditional berthing compartments those that have been on traditional crude as ships per se. There's maybe up to 10 max.
It's like a
into
frigate concept.
Yes, pretty much. They're pretty plush. They're pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. I wish I had those when I was enlisted, but the crew seems to really, really like them. So
Yeah, it's good.
they each have their own thermostats, and they're all, temperature controlled, and it's a pretty good gig for them.
And until we get that's why they re-enlist, right? Because that's how the Navy is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So does that balance then your civilian and your military folks of equivalent status have equivalent berthing and messing on the ship?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so there's in the aft house where the Civ Mars reside, they again have their, they have their own mess. They have a wardroom, if you will. They have an enlisted mess, if you will. They have the stateroom cabins, like the master is an 06 equivalent, same as me, same as the chief engineer. The chief mate is an 05 equivalent. They have staterooms. And then they have the able-bodied seamen that are similar to the berthing compartments that I have for the junior enlisted military members.
Hey, Captain, question on the logistic support for the mission. Is it more so the plug and play for whatever the mission is, pucks or pack up kits where the DETs will bring aboard or the special operations will bring aboard, and you don't have a lot of Bismarck cabinets or storerooms for all that type of stuff to carry for everybody? So is that the concept?
That's exactly right. So we have designated areas on the ship that allow, for example, special forces to bring a container, set it on the ship, it fastens down and it plugs right into ship's power, and it powers up all their communication requirements. They bring a container on, bolted in place, plug it into ship's power, and it's their berthing compartment. And it's their laundry room, and it's their fleet surgical facilities, and they're all containerized, and all these places are identified on the ship where they go, and all the required powers there and everything. So they just they know what they need, they bring them on, they bolt it on, and we go.
Captain, I have a question. I know you're a busy man. I know we got COVID going on and this kind of good stuff. Is there any possibility of taking a tour of your ship? Because I would love to see that bad boy.
Man, I would love to show you the ship. There is. It's definitely in the realm of the possible. Only thing that I have to do, and it helps if you've been vaccinated. But if you haven't, that's still it's still not possible. I need to go because it is still a USNS. It'll change a little bit when it goes USS, but I have to follow USNS protocols, which essentially I know the Commodore very well, MSC Pat Commodore, and it means me getting his permission to come on board, and how I'm going to mitigate any risk. I mean, I'll pre-screen you at the quarterdeck, take your temperature, ask you questions. Once I got the approvals to do it, right? And then we'll social distance, we'll mask, etc. And if you're in local area, that makes it a little easier. Outer area is a little more challenging if they're flying in from somewhere. There is a 14-day quarantine requirement. Anybody coming out of area before they come on the ship, unless they've been vaccinated, they don't have to. So it's definitely in the realm of the possible, and I would be happy to show anybody.
Would it be better if we waited until after the ship was commissioned to try and set up something?
Yeah. I mean, it would help, and I would probably have a little
the COVID vaccination.
Yeah,
process.
and I would definitely have more time because I know we're in port all of April. Well, I know that's not before commissioning. I guess I should go into May. That's when we're commissioning.
Yeah.
So we're in port quite almost all of May. I have a couple underway days in May just following the commission, but the rest of May is in port. I think I got a week because I started voyage repair mid-May, and once that voyage repair starts, I'm locked to the pier.
Yeah. So if you just, to help, everything is if you could just email us some prospective date windows that would work for you.
Absolutely.
You guys get underway, and then we can, Jay can, work with the group and stuff and try and set up an opportunity for us to come aboard and get a tour.
Definitely wear your Fitbits because you're gonna get your steps in.
That'd be great. Also, if you can just let me know what the requirements are, so I can put it out to people, and what's the max capacity.
Okay.
So we don't inundate your crew.
Yep, I will reach out to well, let's see. Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking it'll be committed. I'll still give MSC Pack a heads up, but definitely I'll definitely send out the requirements, what we need to do. If anybody's been vaccinated, that's definitely a bonus. But if they haven't been, we can still figure it out, right? Especially if they're coming from a local area. So definitely.
Yeah, we can do it in May. That'd give you enough time and give us enough time.
Yep.
To make it a nice little visit.
Right.
We're not asking for chow or anything like that.
Steel Beach. Yes, sir.
Captain, Captain, sir, my vaccination card. My vaccination.
Got you covered, Charles.
You bet.
Good afternoon, Captain Ernie Belmars here. I got a quick question. I noticed you had a blue and gold crew for your military. Is there like a shift team or blue and gold crew for your military, for your civilian mariners?
No, they run off of just a single crew, so they're on it as long as they want to, essentially, until they can request transfers. I don't know how. I'm not sure if there's a mandatory minimum, if that makes sense, that they before they can request a transfer. But I know they can extend on it indefinitely. Like the master's been there almost since day one. So he's the resident expert on board. And that's, essentially, he knows every ins and out of that ship. So he plans on extending, as of right now, he plans on extending to deployment.
Sure. This is Fred Green. I have, I'll say 2 questions right now. Because you are a unique ship having both civilian and military, and if people, when I served, basically, as people are getting out, they want to get their seaman papers. So because they're on board your ship with the master, will the crew be able to get, say, their papers as a master or a seaman, whatever the Coast Guard requirements are? And will that deter from your maintaining your crew on board?
Yep. No, they wouldn't be able to get those while on board. They wouldn't be, what's the word I'm looking for?
Certified?
Credentialed. Yeah, they wouldn't be certified. They couldn't get a Coast Guard certification per se. But what the military does, and I'll use myself as an example, just to keep it simple, is a lot of the things that I've done in the military from a navigation and engineering perspective, if I were to get out, retire from the Navy, I could essentially go and I would get points or whatever it is towards a master certification. I could get an unlimited master's license with the credentials that I've established in the military, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I remember when I got out, you had to take the exam, plus
Right.
prove how much sea time you had.
Right.
To
Yeah.
keep
So
that.
yes, sir. Exactly. So, the requirements to get an unlimited master's license, I have met those requirements in the Navy, and they would transition over, and it might just be a matter of me taking a Coast Guard test and not have to go through all that again.
So you go ahead. I'm sorry.
And that would apply to any of the sailors that are on board.
So when you, as the blue crew, you'll be able to go through at least 2 rotations, or because usually the finishing commanding officer only hangs around for a very short time once the ship gets underway.
Well, first, I have no intention of calling my detailer ever. So maybe if they just forget about me, I can stay there indefinitely, right? I mean, I really enjoy it. I enjoy the ship and I enjoy being in command. But right now, my PRD is February.
Okay.
But I'm hoping they don't call me.
Thank you for your service there.
Thank you.
Have any other questions? So Captain, I want to thank you so much for your time and, briefing us on the ship. It was very informative. And, if there's anything the Navy League can do for you and your crew, please don't hesitate to ask, and we can see what we might be able to do.
Well, I really, really appreciate that. And thanks everybody for listening. This is my first one. It's the inaugural one, my inaugural brief to anybody. So I do welcome feedback, and I don't take it personal. But if my email's out there, I think somewhere, but if you could just say, hey, Captain, you really screwed this up, or you really sucked here, or you can really do better here, or you hose this up, or I want to, just, if you can help me out, I appreciate it, because I can only get it better, I think. So, but I appreciate you for sticking with me through it.
Yeah, I think you did pretty awesome.